the assassination of JFK have anything to do with UFOs? Well, let's talk about that and a lot more besides, so get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like and subscribe and let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Yeah, the idea that JFK may have been assassinated over UFOs or having something to do with UFOs, that idea has been around for a while. Now, there is at least a little evidence to support it. Now we have a new interview with Ross Coulthart with his guest, Geoff Cruikshanks, a former Australian intelligence officer. And in the latest News Nation piece with Ross, they dive into that interview a little bit. So let's give a listen just real quick.
Do you believe there may be a connection between that presidential order and the subsequent murder of John F. Kennedy?
Absolutely. Yep.
But what's really interesting, and the chap I was interviewing there, who's an Australian former intelligence officer, a guy called Geoff Cruikshank, he's done some phenomenal work revealing a little-known piece of history from the JFK era. How 63 years ago, JFK was so concerned that UFOs were causing the Soviets to fear that the Americans might be launching an attack, that he ordered the CIA to be more open with the Russians, with the Soviet Union, about what we were doing on their border, because it turned out there was a secret CIA program where we were actually spoofing UFOs. We were pretending that there were UFOs by putting up false signals on Russian radar. And needless to say, JFK was very, very concerned about this because it was a huge threat to deconflicting, to stopping the possibility that the Soviets might think that we were attacking. And the interesting thing is there are documents in the Majestic 12 documents which appear to refer to this secret operation. And even though they've been said to be false, it's really interesting because the secret operation was only revealed to exist 2 years ago, and yet these MJ12 documents were found and first discovered to the public attention about 30 years ago. So it really does raise the possibility that what have long been disputed to be fake documents are in fact potentially true, and that they reveal a hidden history about JFK's concern about UFOs.
So there you go. Did JFK's concerns over UFOs lead to his death? Did his desire to address the spoofing issue and other concerns related to UFOs and his willingness to be a little bit more open about UFOs, at least between countries, was that seen as a threat by some entity or entities in power? And I think we all know who I mean by that. What do you guys think? Did UFOs have anything to do with JFK's death? In the interview with Cruikshanks, if I'm saying his name right, probably not, Ross does talk more about MJ12 and how Ross thinks that MJ12 has in some part been debunked, that some of it is BS, that is disinfo, but that some of it may indeed be valid. I've had questions about MJ12 for a long time. I go back and forth. Are they legit? Are they not? If they're not, then it's a very elaborate and well done piece of disinformation. But like Ross says, there's pieces of that that have only just been revealed, just a couple of years ago, and which throws it gives a lot of it more validity, right? So what do you think about MJ12, and what do you think about JFK's assassination? Did it have anything to do with UFOs? Meanwhile, check out this beautiful meteor shower over Stonehenge the other day. Isn't that phenomenal? I mean, that is just gorgeous, guys. That is a lovely, lovely image. Yeah, this is from space.com. Perseid, I can't say that. A meteor shower rains shooting stars over Stonehenge in glorious astrophotography image. A UK-based astrophotographer captured this stunning composite image of Perseid meteor shower raining shooting stars over Stonehenge. The Perseids, one of the year's most prolific meteor showers, peaked this week, raining dozens of shooting stars per hour through the Earth's skies. Yeah, there you go. So there was that composite image of Stonehenge, of the meteor shower over Stonehenge. Now it'd be awesome if that were like an actual image that wasn't just a composite. But still, a beautiful image, and hats off to the astrophotographers that created it. Meanwhile, Lou Elizondo's media onslaught continues, but is he doing more than that? Here in this clip, he talks about meetings with people that may or may not have anything to do with his media campaign to promote his book. Let's give a listen.
Hi guys, Lou Elizondo here on an Amtrak train right now at the Philly train station on the way to New York to have some meetings up there to continue the topic of disclosure and in order to expand this conversation to the world. So wish me luck, guys. Take care. Bye.
All right, good luck and Godspeed, Lou. I love it. I don't know if these meetings that he's talking about, or that interviews that he's doing for his press tour, or if there's something else going on behind the scenes. Is he consulting with who knows what? He's in New York, so it's not going to be Congress, but that's not to say it couldn't be a congressperson, right? Well, what do you think Lou's doing in New York? Who are these meetings with? Is this just to promote his book, or is he behind the scenes orchestrating something to do with official UFO disclosure? Speaking of UFO disclosure, what exactly are we going to get when we get it? We know it's coming. We know some measure of UFO disclosure is coming either this year or very soon. But what exactly are they're going to reveal to us? Well, here David Grush gives us a hint at some of the things they might reveal.
I just wanted to put enough out there, touch on all the most sensitive parts, like the biologic side and like things that really need to come out.
Yeah.
But I don't want to overly disclose because it's not my job, but enough to, put the flag out there that we need to elevate this. This is serious. Some of the uncomfortable stuff, like the biologic stuff, like I mentioned during the hearing.
Yeah.
You got to realize some baggage is coming with it besides, the Indiana Jones, where.
So the baggage, that's what interests me. Obviously, my mind goes to alien abductions and contacts and things like that, talking about the biologics and what the beings are actually doing. But is he possibly talking about the baggage that comes with getting those bodies, if indeed they came from UFO shoot downs or something like that? So what exactly do you think will they reveal to us? They've already talked about the biologics, right? Or at least David Grush has. We know they've got bodies. We know they've got ships. We know they've got crash retrievals and reverse engineering programs. So I imagine that all of that is on the table for UFO disclosure. But will they go further than that? Let me know how far you think they're going to go with UFO disclosure, at least in the foreseeable future. Meanwhile, what is up with a crazy similarity between the one of the aliens in Close Encounters of the Third Kind and the Nazca mummies? I mean, I'm sure I've talked about this before, but man, that resemblance is striking. What does Spielberg know, guys? What does Spielberg know? I mean, they didn't even know about the mummies back then. Or did they? Are these beings or something like them still running around and people are interacting with them and describing them to people like Steven Spielberg? How did he come across this shocking similarity to the Nazca mummies in that movie? I'd love to know your thoughts. Meanwhile, in an interview with Joe Rogan, Peter Thiel gives his own thoughts about UFOs and aliens, and he believes they are either aliens or they are demons. And the way he gets there is that, well, they are obviously able to go faster than light. And if they can, have warp speed, then they also have warp speed weapons. And you can't fight against warp speed weapons, he says. So why aren't they using these fantastic weapons either against us or themselves? How are they still around if they are using these warp speed weapons? He says, well, the answer is because they're not using those warp speed weapons. Obviously, if they were, they would have wiped themselves out, or we would, they would wipe us out. So he believes that means either A, it's like a totalitarian, or maybe a hive mind situation, kind of a dark evil situation. And, whoever is controlling that group has such a lockdown on the consciousness of the whole civilization so as to make using those weapons impossible without the consent of the leader. Or else, on the other hand, they're totally angelic beings, altruistic and benevolent, and they would never use such weapons. So, well, that's an interesting theory. I don't like leaning into the angels and demons narrative of UFOs. I've studied near-death experiences extensively, just as much as I have UFO abductions, and I've studied both quite extensively. And from my study into near-death experiences, I do believe there are angels or something analogous to angels. A lot of people do see these beings. Not necessarily in a religious context, but, these beings look like kind of what we imagine angels to look like and act more or less how we imagine angels to act. So I do think there is something analogous to that on the other side. So could there be a counterpart to that? Sure, absolutely. And I definitely think there's an other dimensional or even a spiritual aspect to a lot of UFO activity. But that's not to say there's angels and demons running around in UFOs and that this is all angels and demons fighting each other or trying to take control of us. I don't think that's what's happening at all. There may indeed be a metaphysical element. I think there is. There is. But I don't think it's angelic or demonic. I think that angels seem to be operating in their respective sphere. On the other side. And, I haven't seen any compelling cases of angels interacting here on Earth. They exist in another dimension and they'll interact with you when you're there, but they don't seem to come here much, at least from the accounts that I've read. And the same hopefully goes true for demons. Hopefully they stay wherever the hell they are. Okay, I couldn't resist. That was a terrible joke. Now, there do seem to be like possessions and stuff like that. I'm not convinced those are actually demonic, but those are certainly negative entities. So I do think that some measure of what he's saying might be true, but only a certain measure. And to see the entire UFO phenomenon and the greater phenomenon as well in such simplistic terms, I don't think is really helpful to the conversation. But I do think it's helpful to highlight that there is a metaphysical component to the UFO phenomenon. Meanwhile, speaking of metaphysics, this is a really cool interview between Jeffrey Mishlove and Dr. Wolf. Dr. Wolf is talking about his research into shamanism, and it really struck home with me because I know exactly what he's talking about, and I've experienced this very thing. And I'll give you my experience in just a second, but let's listen to him talk about this really interesting phenomenon of shamanism, or this tool of shamanism.
I remember the first time I met Jorge Gonzalez Ramirez, who is a Peruvian shaman, and I asked him simple questions like, well, how do you heal somebody? And then I said, well, before you answer that question, I said, how do you know when someone's sick? And he says, oh, I can tell by their vibration. I said, oh, their vibration. Well, how do you do that? And so then he reaches over, and just like I'm reaching over, he grabs my wrist and he starts holding my wrist like this. And then I said, oh, and I'm thinking, this guy is, maybe primitive. And you mean pulse? That's what you mean. You mean pulse. And then he says, that too. And then I realized that when he's speaking about vibrations or bodily vibrations, he's not just speaking about the pulse, but he's speaking about a number of different vibrational energies that are present in the body.
Okay, so that's really fascinating. I experienced that very thing during one of my retreats. One of my shamans, one of my primary shamans, I was trying to convince him that I wanted more of the medicine. I wanted to go deeper into the medicine, talking about ayahuasca. And the shaman took my hand, took my arm, touched my wrist, and held it there for a minute. Looking me in the eye and feeling my energies and, connecting to my wrist. And, in the end, he agreed and allowed me to go deeper into the medicine. And I'm very grateful to him for that. But he was doing exactly what Dr. Wolf is describing here. I love it. I would love to understand and be able to do stuff like that. And I took a Reiki class, and we did learn some energetic techniques. And there were people in my class that could kind of feel vibrations. I mean, they could sense what was going on with you. If you had, if your stomach was doing poorly, they could sense that, for example, right? If you were in pain, they could sense that. There are definitely people that can do this. I do think that some of this is a learned ability. I mean, you can actually learn how to do it. but there are, like these shamans, they were trained in how to do this. But I do think that some people are innately gifted with this stuff as well. Either way, it's super fascinating and I love it. Meanwhile, some people are saying this is the actual real UFO event that occurred over Palmdale, California. The drone display, from Hawaii has been debunked. That was just some BS somebody put out pretending that that was a UFO event in California. But that's not to say there wasn't a real event in California. Some people are saying this is it. This drone, or excuse me, whatever they are, these UFOs in the sky, potentially over California, but I haven't seen any witnesses to this event come forward. I don't know if this is genuine or not, but let me know what you think about whatever this is, and let me know if you think this is the UFO event that was in California the other day. Let me know what you think about it all in the comments below, and if you've enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up. I sure appreciate it. Smash the like button and the subscribe button and the bell to be notified of future videos. That is a crazy fish, dude. And become a channel member. Channel members are rock star, and they often get to see videos hours ahead of everybody else. Meanwhile, there's plenty of other videos on the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road, signing out.